Welcome back to a geometry classroom. Today we'll talk about properties of trapezoids. In this lesson, we'll identify the parts of a trapezoid. We recognize the properties of a trapezoid. And we apply the properties of trapezoids to find missing angles and sides of trapezoids. But before that, let's define what is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Why? Because it has 4 sides and 4 angles, with exactly one pair of opposite sides parallel, and the other pair of opposite sides non-parallel. As we see here, right? These 2 sides are parallel and opposite. The other pair of opposite sides are none, or is not parallel, or non-parallel. Also, a trapezoid has 2 pairs of base angles, right? One pair is D and C. The other pair is A and B. Why we call them base angles? Because they are along bases, right? D and C are along this base, and A and B are along the other base. As we can see, the parallel sides are called bases. This one is long base, and the other one is short base. The other non-parallel sides are called legs. Also, in a trapezoid, right? And listen, this is an important property. The angles formed by the bases, right? And the same non-parallel base, side, right? Are supplementary, which means angle A plus, let's say, measure of angle A plus measure of angle D, right, equals 180 degrees. And measure of angle C plus measure of angle B is also 180. Yes? Now, so the angles formed by the bases and the same non-parallel side are supplementary. Yeah? Now, we cannot say measure of angle A plus measure of angle B equals 180, right? We cannot say. It's not true. Also, measure of angle D plus measure of angle C is not equal 180. Yes? Only A and D, B and C, right? But sometimes you may have different letters, but it's the same, concept. Good. Now, trapezoids could be of different type, right? Now, if the non-parallel sides, like here, right, are congruent, right, we say this trapezoid is an isosceles one, right? If one of the angles of the trapezoid, let's say D, right, like this one, is 90 degrees, then trapezoid would be right trapezoid. So let's repeat, right, to keep in mind. Now, if the non-parallel sides are congruent, then this trapezoid is isosceles. Remember, it's something similar to isosceles triangles, right? And if one of its angles of a trapezoid is a right one, then the trapezoid is called right trapezoid. Now, but probably will work the most with isosceles trapezoid. Now, we have a few properties in an isosceles trapezoid. If a trapezoid is isosceles, then each pair of base angles is congruent, right? Like here. What are the base angles? D and C, B and A. So we can say angle D congruent angle C, and angle A congruent angle B. But keep in mind, this is true only for isosceles trapezoids, not for all trapezoids. Good. And another important property of isosceles trapezoid, a trapezoid is isosceles if and only if its diagonals are congruent. Remember, diagonals are segments that join opposite corners. Yes? So, what are the diagonals? AC, right? And BD. So, in an isosceles trapezoid, these two diagonals are congruent. Yes? Now, this being said, let's have a few examples with trapezoids. In this example, it says find the missing angle of the trapezoid. In other words, the question mark. Let denote by x. Now, to find this angle, we have to remember the properties of these two angles. These two angles are formed by the bases, which are parallel, right? And the same non-parallel side, which means these two angles are supplementary. In other words, they add up 180. So if we write the equation, x plus 65 equals 180. Then we simply solve for x by subtracting 65 on both sides. And we get x equals 115 degrees. So x is 115 degrees. Another problem is this one. It says find the measure of n. As we can see, this trapezoid is an isosceles one. How we know is an isosceles one? We know the non-parallel sides are congruent. Do you see these markings? Means they are congruent. We know a trapezoid is isosceles one if and only if the non-parallel sides are congruent. Because this a trapezoid is an isosceles one, the base angles we know are congruent. Because they are congruent, we can say 117 degrees equals 3n. Yes? And we solve for n by dividing by 3 both sides, right? And we get 39. So n equals 39. N is degrees because n is an angle. Good. One more example here. It says if part is PART, part is an isosceles trapezoid, and PT equals 2x plus 10. and AR equals 42, right? What is the value of x? Now, here it says PART is an isosceles trapezoid, which means the non-parallel sides, which are PT and AR, are congruent. Yes? Congruent means equal. So we can write the equation 2x plus 10 equals 42. Then, to solve for x, we subtract 10 on both sides. And we get on the left side 2x, because these two cancel out, equals, on the right side is 42 minus 10 equals 32. Then we divide by 2 both sides, and we get x equals 16. Of course, this side, if you plug in here, you'll get 42. So that is all we have for today. Thank you for watching my video.